Okay, we'll start everyone. Thank you for coming, and as always, I like to start on time, so I want to do the bonus wine here. I know all of you, or most of you, but I'll give the standard introduction. So my name is Ben. I'm the owner of Waterford Wine and Spirits. What we're going to do today is taste through the wines of Spain. I actually had the privilege of being in Spain at the beginning of last month, so hopefully the material is fairly fresh for me. With that, how we're going to do this is, as we always do, we're going to have 10 wines, including the bonus wine, 9 in a series of 3 wines per flight. And I think each flight ends with a white wine. So we're going to cycle through a lot of reds, but then every flight have a palate reset with a white wine. So a couple of housekeeping things here for us. I know that this was going to be all 3 stores together, so people may not know each other. I figure we'll just wait until the end of the second flight to go around and introduce each other, because by that time, yes, oh boy, we'll have had 7 glasses of wine. So we'll give our names and then we'll tell everyone what we were drinking last night and why. That'll be at the end of the second flight, so you have some time to think about it. The other thing you'll notice is that we're recording this. You guys can do whatever you want. You're not going to be on the recording, it's just me. That actually started during last year. The idea was that we would record it and put it on a YouTube channel for clients to go and watch and maybe buy some wine. By and large, what I found is that most people actually enjoy drinking wine together as opposed to via a computer screen. But it's been extremely helpful for the 3 store managers to go back and listen to what the presentation was and why I flowed through what I flowed through and why I chose the wines that I chose. So that's why we're still recording them. So again, if you want to horse around like we always do at all tastings, feel free. It's really only going to be seen by probably Waterford staff, and that's it. So that's why we've got the little recording going on. Okay. So to start with, I wanted to pour you this wine because it's fun to start with bubbles. I should also say thank you for your time, especially on Halloween and especially in the morning. Great time, though, actually, to try and get us together. But I wanted to start with this wine because who doesn't want a sparkling wine at breakfast? Now, this is a wine that I've actually sold for, and we've sold for a couple of vintages. It's a fairly new winery. It would be our example of cava. For us, there's a little bit of a trick to this one, though, and if you look at the label very closely, you'll get the trick, which is that this is actually not labeled as cava. It's actually labeled, I think, as just a generic wine. The reason for that is twofold. One, cava is a large region, and they tend to make a lot of sparkling wine. In fact, you could call it a fairly bulk sparkling wine region. This is the reason that you can get cavas down at typically $6 or sometimes $4 or $5 is because they're making quite a lot of it. Now, every cava producer will tell you, hey, it's made in the same method as champagne, so it's made in method champenois, and it also has an aging requirement like champagne, so the quality technically, or at least the process technically, is at the same level of champagne. So you can either believe that or not, or taste through it and see what you think. But again, that's why most cavas are fairly inexpensive. The other thing going on, or the other trick of this that links to that, is that this producer, Raventos, actually opted out of cava. He decided he did not want to be part of the DO because he felt like the DO sanctified bulk production and therefore not higher quality. And he specifically wanted to pursue higher quality with the native style of making wine from his native region. So the region of cava and also the native grape varieties, but in a method that he feels makes a more profound and higher quality wine. To do that, he had to drop out of the cava DO. So that's why I wanted to pour you this one. It's probably our most expensive cava that we have on the shelf. I think it comes in at $21.99, so it's definitely up there. It is organic, it is biodynamic. I do feel like the flavor profile is more profound than most cavas. Okay. Now, I want to end this introductory wine with just a couple of things that I'd like from you all as we taste through these wines. And it's really 3 things that I want, and this is the training part of the orientation, or training part of the tasting, if you will. For each of these wines, I'd like to have you develop 2 two answers, two sentences that you can say about each of these wines by the time we end the tasting. I'm not going to ask you to repeat them out loud to us, and they can be yours. They don't have to be mine. But the goal here is that if someone asks you about Roventos, you can say one sentence to them and get out something important, and important to you about the wine. And the more important you can make it to you about what you're saying about the wine, the more sincere it'll come across, and the better you'll sell it. The second sentence is there for you to think about and develop, is because after someone asks you the first one, you give your first sentence. Generally, they'll want to start a conversation, and so you have a second sentence to give them. So as we taste through these, again, two sentences that I want you to internalize and remember and know about these wines that you can say on the sales floor when someone asks you. The third thing that I'd like to have you do is, Spain is a fairly broad place, just like every geographic designation of wine in the world. There's a lot of different wines going on in Spain. But with each of these wines that we're going to encounter, I'm going to try and link them down into a region of Spain. So I'm going to try and talk to you about the region that they're in as well. So I'd like you to be able to say something about the region that each of these wines are from. The goal there is that when you encounter someone on the sales floor, if you don't know the specific wine, you can revert back to the region and hopefully say something a little bit more educated about the region that the wine is from. So if they're asking you about Cava and you have only tasted Roventos and they're looking for a $6.99 Cava, you can hopefully say something about Cava as a region, as a whole. It's made in the Champagne style, it's matured in the Champagne style, and therefore really could obtain the technical quality heights of Champagne. That would be a good one. So give yourself a sentence on the region and then two sentences on the wine. And that's really what I would like you to take out of this. Now, you can, of course, take as much more as you want out of it, and that's why we're actually tasting these wines, particularly the expensive ones, but those are the three that I would ask. So, again, welcome, cheers, and that was the bonus wine.